All right, balancers. Today's guest is an entrepreneur, author, and business coach, and need I not mention a mother of five as well. After failing in many businesses and finally cracking the secret to the ecom world, Mariam Elhouli has made it a mission to empower women to do the same and follow their dreams. And I'm so grateful to have her on the show today to chat about all things entrepreneurial, balancing, being a mum with all the things that life throws at you. I know we were just talking about the hectic week you've got on your plate. So thank you so much for squeezing me into your schedule and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Me too. Now, I want you to just share a little bit about, I guess, a typical day in your life, if that's even a thing, or just maybe the last 24 hours. Like, just tell us a little bit about, you've obviously got a few things going on. And I love talking to people who have this dynamic combination of a lot going on because it's always really interesting to me how they make it all work. What kind of fits for you. So talk to me a little bit about the last 24 hours in your life. What's that look like?
So we've got, as you know, Ramadan now. So we're fasting, we're observing the month of Ramadan, and it's very challenging when you work and the kids. So typical day for me starts at 5 a.m., sometimes even earlier. We get up, get the kids up to school. Thank God they're a little bit older now. So one goes to TAFE, the other few in high school, and then I do the drop offs, the lunches, drop off 3 schools, and then I'm back at emails, Eve Skin, which is my organic skincare company, making sure that everything's going smoothly with that. And then we've got the other meetings for Mica Minerals, which is our mineral makeup company, and then replying to a ton load of emails for public speaking, for my writing, and for all the other stuff that I do. And then it's back to getting the kids from school. Like, you have to be wary of the time, and then preparing dinner, cleaning up the house, looking, seeing what the kids need, sport activities for them, and then I'm back working again on, I call it the night shift. Especially
Yeah.
Australia's time zone is like completely wacky, Erica, as you know, like we're in the end of the world. So to speak to the other side of the world, I have to be up at 1, 2, 3 in the morning
Yeah,
sometimes.
for sure.
And that's how it is. It's a cycle of never ending. But I love it, and it's not for everyone. I just wanted to be clear that it is not for everyone, but I strive and love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I want to know a little bit about how you actually started your businesses. Did you have business experience? How did you actually take that leap to start these businesses off, one, and then to scale them to be successful?
What people see is these are not my first businesses. I've had probably 10 or 15 ever since I was 18. I was always trying to make it work, trying to have a better life for the kids and the family, because I had them very young. I was 16 when I had my oldest. So I was really a kid myself, and looking now back in hindsight. And from one failure to another, you sort of pick up on the traits. If you've got any sense of of a compass in you, you sort of know what not to do next time. So over
Mm.
the last probably 15 or so years, I've picked up a lot of skills that have enabled me to sort of now understand and navigate the world of business, because it's very hard, especially the last couple of years moving into ecom. That's very different to what I had done before. I had a clothing boutique here in Brunswick. It was a designer clothing, and we got scammed. Again, it's all lessons. So starting those businesses, I started from scratch. There was probably $169 in Eves. That's what I started with. I used, if you're aware of Afterpay, to get some labels because there wasn't enough money for that, and slowly built it. And then COVID came along, nearly bankrupted us, but then learned that you need to sell the benefits, and people were getting mask acne. So that was how we flourished and just built from there.
Amazing. So one thing I found really interesting that you've just said is that, you had so many, let's call them quote unquote failures, but what you picked up were traits along the way that kind of compounded into this now successful projection. That approach, I feel, is like it's incredible, right? But it's really hard in the moment when you feel like a failure and you feel like you've kind of, the world's ending and you haven't done it right and you just feel really crappy about yourself. So I just want to know, do you think that that's a trait that you just naturally had? It's kind of just one of those things that you just get on with the job, get it done? Or did you kind of have a process in which you reflected, gave yourself like a bit of space to feel the feels? Like, just talk to me through how you actually did that. Because when you have so many kind of, let's call them failures in a row, it can be really like disconcerting and you can get really unmotivated at the same time.
I think for me personally, because I experienced at a young age three wars. One of in Lebanon when I was there with my son when he was young. I think I saw the worst of humanity and how life is so fragile that no matter what failure I had gone through, whether in a personal or business life, it didn't come close to what I had seen
Compare.
before. So it didn't matter really, because every time I'd fail, yeah, I'd get upset for a minute, but then I would remember everything that happened, and I say, well, you surely can't be upset about a few dollars or a few products that didn't work, and how about everything that you saw before? So I think having that as my people have mood board.
Point
That
of
was my mood
reference.
board. Yeah, that was my
Yeah.
big point of reference in life. That after seeing all of that, that there nothing is really important. And what's the other thing is really important for people to understand is it's if you are at rock bottom, there is no way down further. That's it. Every time you hit zero, what are you going to dig a grave for yourself? You need to go up. So there is no way. So I made it my mission not to, even when we lost $300,000-400,000 in our boutique, our life savings, I think I shed 3 4 tears, wiped off my tears, and next, literally, like, everyone around was gobsmacked that but what do? You can't, if you chase money, it will run. You need to
Mm.
understand that you need to have a bigger purpose, and then money will just follow you. It's just a byproduct of your work,
Yeah.
if that makes
Yeah, that's
sense.
beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. So what was that purpose for you? What was the bigger purpose?
To have a decent life, me and the kids. I didn't want to be living paycheck to paycheck. I didn't want to be living like the normal mums, that just ethnic mums, especially. You have kids, you stay home, and then that's it, and you just wait till the kids grow up, and then you make kids food for the grandkids. Just the cycle that
Cycle.
you find the ethnic females, especially in our communities, live. I went back to school. I went back to uni. I done a literature degree while having 5 kids, and it took 10 years, but it doesn't matter because life's going on anyway. So I've always not
Mm.
wanted to live the standard life that nearly every mum lives.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's so powerful, right? When you actually have that strong desire, like to put in context, right? So many people listening to the show will have a career, they probably have a really good career, but they have this burning desire to do something else. And they may not know what that something else is. And I think if you're trying to define that thing rather than come from a place of why do I want to do this thing, sometimes it's not that it's inauthentic, but it may not be the thing. I feel like when you find the right driver or the right path, it's because it's something that's inside of you already. It's something you feel, it's something you want. And that is such an organic way to continue to do something or to follow a path. Like it almost isn't a force at that point. Like you said, like you got scammed out of a lot of money and that was like basically your life savings, but the fact that you were able, wipe your tears and move on is because you had that connection to that deeper why. And I think it's just such an important reminder for people, like if you just zoom out from, oh, I lost this money here or I stuffed up on this task here, like if you just zoom out in the big picture, like why are you doing the things you're doing? And this isn't even just with like career, right? It's with the relationships you're in, it's with how you're spending
100%.
your time. Like what's the why behind all these things? Because if you're just doing it because, like you said, you're on autopilot, it's a cycle, you're just doing what's kind of been laid out in front of you, that's your life and it's moving, and no one's going to stop or change the course of it other than yourself. So I
And
think your
and you know
story
what,
is really
Erica, over the years, and as I've got, as we get in general, as we get older, and hopefully we get wiser, and I
one
think
would hope, yes.
well, we hope because it's not always the case, and people always look at me, but how can you become a mum at 16? I say you can meet 40-year-olds that have an attention span and a brain width of zero. Age is never ever an indicator of wisdom. It's what you go through that actually makes you wise. But I found that, and I've learned that you have to be your own supporter. You have to pat your own back, and you have to do it for yourself before anyone else, because you're the only person that's going to stick around from when you were born till you die.
Mm,
Everything in life, and everyone, and I mean everyone, from our families to our spouses to our kids, they can leave us, whether by choice or whether by nature. Whether people pass away, whether they get ill, where things happen, where marriages broke down, whatever it is. And you're left with yourself. And the other day, actually, I was at a communication seminar, and the host was saying, never build your emotional self in others, because then you're rendered homeless. And that actually
Wow.
really stuck with me because it's so true. Whether in personal or business life, you have to do things for yourself and you can pivot. I think people are very stuck on, if I'm going to be one thing, I can never change. That's not true. And from a business point of view, I tell people, forget passion. That's the biggest lie you've ever been told, because passion is for people that have money. If you can't pay your bills, if you can't feed yourself, if you can't put yourself to the things that you want, passion is useless. When I started Eve's, it wasn't a passion. It was something that I wanted. I've got sensitive skin that helped me and that I was going to make a living out of. Passion comes later when I became an author. That's my passion. Like I
Mm.
think people mix up the two and they spend their entire lives wasting their lives trying to run behind the passion when really they need to get things done, and then that becomes second nature and you pivot so many
Mm.
times.
Yeah, I think that's interesting to think about. Like, look, consider like your current circumstances. Like, are you in a position where A, you know what your passion is, and B, you can financially, facilitate that? Alternatively, do you just have to kind of find a means to an end for the meantime until you're in that position? And I can definitely resonate with that. Like, I definitely feel like that's a position in life where I'm at, right? Like, I'm doing these podcasts on the side, but I work as a full-time lawyer. I do enjoy my job, but it's not necessarily what I see myself doing for the rest of my life. This podcast and branches off the back of that, similar to you, like becoming an author or speaking or curating events, like that is my passion. But I know that, it will take time to build that and get there. And so that's why I'm doing it on the side. And that's why I've been consistent for so many years, because I have that deeper connection to a passion, but it's not necessarily, I mean, I'm still being able to live it out now, but it's not making me a living, so
Not
to
a full
speak. So
scale. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's
exactly.
absolutely nothing wrong with that. That can be, and I call my writing my side hustle now because I can't pursue it full time like yourself. But there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're self aware that this is my future goal, and slowly I can work towards that. That is okay. The problem is when people just see that big goal as a now thing and they can't achieve it, and that's when they give up. You only have failed if
Yeah.
you've ever given up. Where there's a means, there's a way. And I found over the couple of years of ecom, and speaking to hundreds of women from business coaching, it's not the lack of fun stopping people chasing their dreams. It's a lack of courage. It's because our ears turn to everyone around us. And anytime you tell someone, I want to do X, I can guarantee you 99% of them will say it's a bad idea. So, you just need to zoom in on yourself and just do things without telling anyone.
Yeah, yeah, and I think like it's interesting, right? When we talk about money, it's just because I mean I've got an e-commerce business as well, so I can definitely relate to a lot of what you're saying. And I feel like when we're talking about success, just because of the way society is conditioned, we generally put that in the basket of finances. However, there are so many other things that go hand in hand with success, like the community you're building, the connections you're making, the impact you're having on people, the lessons you're learning along the way that are very far from what a financial number can reflect. And so often we get so hung up on that one metric when we're succeeding in so many other areas. And that's kind of how I see different areas of my life, right? So, like, this podcast is not my bread and butter from a financial point of view, but it's bringing me a sense of success in so many other ways. I mean, like I said to you before we jumped on this call, for me, it's not like interview and next. It's I build such really nice connections with people that we help each other out in different ways, and you never know when those relationships serve you long term. Even with everybody listening, they reach out all the time, and it's just such a nice way to just kind of reframe success, right? Like, it's not always about the money. But one
No.
thing I wanted to go back to, which I think is super interesting, you're talking about that beautiful quote you heard at the seminar the other day, this idea that you shouldn't be building, I guess how I take it anyway, you shouldn't be building your definition or idea of self based off somebody else, either what somebody else wants or what somebody else needs, because like you said, once they're gone, what are you basically left with? It's nothing. And I think this really comes down to the whole concept of self-love and self-belief. And it's something we talk about a lot on the show, because I feel like the concept can be quite arbitrary in the sense people think it's, light the candles and get a massage. But at the end of the day, if you don't feel grounded within yourself, if you don't feel balanced within yourself, that to me is the foundation of all this stuff, right? It's going to be the foundation in which you can leap onto, you know, through difficult moments, or you can push forward when other people are telling you maybe that's a bad idea, but you have that self confidence. So I just want to know for you, is this something you've struggled with in the past? This self belief, is self doubt something that you felt creep up in your life? How have you kind of build that really strong fortress of self confidence or just resilience within yourself? I know you mentioned before you kind of had this bigger point of reference and you knew where you wanted to go. But if we just bring it down to Mariam, you with yourself, how have you kind of nurtured that strength, that inner strength?
I don't know. That's actually a very hard question because I've never sat down and really thought about it. I've just always been, like you said, not on autopilot, but just what's next, and the big point of reference in my life. But I think, and I was sort of thinking about it the other day. My father passed away at 52. He left a ton of kids behind. I was 21. I had three kids of my own. And I think from that moment on, I realized time is what we're chasing. And I realized that nothing is guaranteed. Literally, nothing is guaranteed. So I've always thought to myself, when I get to, whether it's self love or whatever it is, the definition that you want to call it, I've always looked back and said, well, if you now give up, if you now don't like, if you now think that that's it, it's over, and every day, as you know, with ecom, every day you've got a problem, and every day I say, that's it, I'm going to throw everything in the bin, and I'm sick of it. Why can't I just do a normal job again? It's sometimes very frustrating. But then I think to myself,
Yeah.
and I say, well, Miriam, tomorrow is not guaranteed. Tomorrow is not promised. We don't know if we're going to have 1 year's time chance or 2 years later to go back and think about it and do it again. So and then that's how I sort of pick up myself, sort of back. But going back to what you said about e-com and trying to sort of, I call it build a legacy. This is how I picture it. If you sold 100 products a second from your brand, yeah, no one's going to remember Erica, because when that product's finished, it's going into the bin. So people have to understand the metric of whether we were talking about money before or whether financials doesn't really make an impact on your life long term if you want to leave behind a legacy, because you
Mm.
never ever should put your self-worth in how many products you sold. That's absolutely absurd, because no one cares, and no one's going to remember two things. Nobody absolutely cares. Us humans are selfish, and we bought the product because it's a need or probably a want, and that's it. You should always have bigger goals later for yourself, and that should be your metric. I'm a better Mariam than I
Mm.
was yesterday, than the day before, the year before, even the second before. And the other thing I want to point out to your listeners is, and this is, I think, sometimes society pushes us against the wall. We are allowed to change our mind. I am allowed, and you
Yes.
are allowed to say, well, yesterday I believed in X and today I am free to believe in Y. That does not make me a hypocrite, but it makes me a wiser person. I've realized a lot now that, and I've been doing this a lot, and then people have been taking a stance. But I'm allowed to grow. I'm a human. How can you expect me to be the same version of myself that I was 5, 10, 15 years ago? I can't. So you are allowed to
Yeah.
change your ideas, your beliefs. Everything is allowed to be changed. Nothing's concrete.
Yeah.
Nothing in life is concrete.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful reminder, because I think what trips us up a lot of the time or holds us back from trying new things is this fear of, and I think maybe ego has a role to play as well. Like you kind of think, well, I can't do that because I'm going to be judged, right? And that is just a fear of what other people think. And it's such a superficial thing to hold you back. Like, are you really going to waste your whole life not doing things because of the fear of what other people think, when that's just a barrier you've created for yourself? Like you said, I think that's a really great reminder, because I think there are probably some people listening and that would have really resonated with, that feel like they have all this stuff, they know what they want to do or they know what they would like to try, but there is this lingering fear of, but I was always known as a lawyer and now I want to be a business owner. Like no one's going
Yeah.
to take me seriously. Like who cares? No one started off as a professional business owner. No one started off as the best entrepreneur. They learned that along the way, and you have to start somewhere. So if it's something you want to do, you're only delaying it for longer. You're only pushing back that dream. You're only pushing back the what if, and you don't want to get to the end of your life. And like
Look,
you said, we don't know when that is.
it took me 2.5 years to have the nerve to do an Instagram story or say that I'm the person behind my brand. Literally. And I think I really resonate with that, because that's exactly what happened to me, because I was feared of being judged. I'm a young mum. I have a big family. I'm an ethnic lady. I'm a scarfed female as well. So if I was going to put down on a Google spreadsheet of everything in my mind that I shouldn't be, I've ticked all the boxes. Like I don't
Yeah.
fit into a normal, what an entrepreneur should look like, should talk like, should her way of life. I didn't fit into them
I don't think that box exists. I think we think it exists, but I don't
in
think
our
it really
mind at
does.
least, or we were.
Yeah,
I now realize we are led to believe that this box exists, but it actually doesn't. And
it
the
doesn't.
only reason I had the guts to really go ahead because I wanted to expand and get media reach, and no one would accept without photos and who's the person behind the story. And then I said to myself, "Well, bad luck. That's me. I can't pretend I'm someone else." For the rest of my life. So whether people are going to be upset about it and not maybe purchase the products that because it was just the brands that I had, well then they're not my tribe. Then that means and it's okay. It's not I'm the failure. It may be that we're not aligned together. But then after
Mm,
that, I absolutely don't care anymore. Not I don't care about
yeah.
people's opinions if it's constructive. I don't care about people judging the way I live or what I should or shouldn't do because as you get a bit more known in this industry, you allow the can of worms on social media to open. And sometimes I just get messages and I just look and say, I feel sorry for the other person. How much time do you have on your hand to just sit and write an essay for me when you have no idea about my life? Just making assumptions.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, honestly, with everything you're saying. And I just think it's really refreshing, right, for people to realize that the block or the limit is really within their own mind. Like for me, that was quite freeing when I realized that. And look, it doesn't mean like you don't get hurt when you get a nasty message or things like that. But at the end of the day, you realize like I'm in control and being me is my superpower. Like that's actually being unique. And one thing you said that I just want to touch on before I ask you the next thing is you were talking about how you said if I show myself and then it doesn't resonate with people and they don't want to connect with a brand, then we're not aligned. I feel like when you really stand in who you are, it's actually a gift because you weed out the people that don't serve you or that just it's not that they're bad people and it's not that you're better. It's got nothing to do with that. It's just you're not aligned. So like the question really for everyone listening is would you rather be a half version of yourself and please everyone, connect with everyone just so you feel aligned and you're not upsetting or rustling any feathers? Or would you rather stand in your true sense of self, even if that means you're going to lose a few people along the way, but you know that the ones that are left are the real ones, are the people that really connect with you and believe in you. And I think it's once you do it, I mean, just even with the move overseas, right? Like it naturally disconnected me from a lot of people who were just clinging on, just on the hanging on for dear life. It wasn't a strong connection. It naturally weeded those things out. And for me, it's like you can sit and cry about it, but ultimately, if it was strong enough, it wouldn't have
No,
broken off. And so I think you kind of got to just let go of that and just trust that if you really are aligned in being who you are, you're going to attract those people that appreciate that appreciate you for who you are. And I think that's a blessing. So I just wanted to touch on that. But I do want to ask you about your book. So the olive tree. Talk to me a little bit about the themes in the book because I think it's quite relevant to just in general, like people can think about ways to apply it to their own life.
so the olive tree, I write fiction with a purpose, and that's as we said before, that's my real passion since I was very young. And I think just experiencing those civil wars overseas and stuff, it just really cemented that that's where I want to hopefully one day retire to and just write. I wrote the olive tree a few years ago, and when I was in my shop and I just in my spare time, just like sort of a trauma outlet. It's fiction, but it's based on if you were to read it, you would say, "Oh, I've got a cousin that has that trait," or "I've got an auntie I know that does this," or you can. It's sort of weeded from life itself, and that's why a lot of people tell me, "Are you sure it's fiction?" I'm like, "Definitely fiction." I'm Lebanese background. I'm not Palestinian. I've never been to Palestine. It just resonates so well because it's from life. And when I wrote it 3 years ago, anytime I tell anyone, look, I've written this book and I've got, as I said, literature degree background, so it's sort of in my expertise of study, everyone would tell me, but yeah, as you said, you doing selling clothing and then you're going to become an author, and it just like it doesn't make
It's
sense.
random.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like they say, seven P's. You're the jack of all trades. You won't amount to anything. Who's gonna read the book? That's without them even knowing anything about the book. That's just the opinions. So, and I always sort of believed them. Then when COVID hit, and I reached rock bottom in everything, like mentally in Melbourne, we were nearly locked up for 2.5 years on and off. It was just horrible. I said, you know what? If the world can come into a pandemic and everything can end, I'm just gonna. This book is gonna go to the world, and if one person reads it and I can change one person's mind about life, then that is the biggest thing I've done. When we launched it and it went to number one on Amazon, I was gobsmacked. Like I couldn't believe it. I started getting from
Mhm.
around the world messages, and I thought it was going to be a teen
Beautiful.
book, like for young adult book. But I had 50-year-old, 70-year-old veterans messaging me and saying how the war story,
Amazing.
it just resonates with them so much. And then it went to New York Times Square. It was on a panel, like it just got bigger and bigger, and I was just like, oh my god. Imagine if I had listened to everyone, I wouldn't have had the chance to interact with all these people. So that's the
Yeah,
story
and
basically
change
of
their
Lemon
life,
Tree.
right? Amazing. And what about the actual, I guess, themes within the book? Like, if you had to tell us top three for someone listening that might be interested to read it, just what are like the top three themes in the book that offer a perspective or shift or just different opinion on life?
So basically, the book talks about prejudice and segregation and how children pay the ultimate price in any war. The main characters are Nisma and Hannah. One's Muslim, one's Jewish, and they're neighbors. But because of past trauma from both parents, they're forbidden to become friends. And all the kids want is just to live a sort of a normal life. But then the society tries to form into something they're not. So the book really discusses, it doesn't talk about religion or even politics, but it just talks about how we are so alike. When you peel off the layers, especially children, teens, all they want is to live some sort of a decent life. They don't care, what skin color you are. They don't care what religion you are. They don't care about if you're rich or poor. Children just want to be children. And the book dives you into that, and it takes you on their journey, and I've had pros and cons, and it's up to you as a reader to have a look and see where you stand in that, depending on your life, events that have happened to you, because everyone reads it differently. But that's
Sure.
basically what it talks about, that if we stand together united, nothing can defeat us.
I think that's beautiful. I think that's a really nice message, and I look forward myself to reading it. But Mariam, I want to thank you so much for giving me half an hour of your busy, busy schedule
Thank you
to
so
come
much.
on and chat with me. It's been really beautiful getting to know you, and I have no doubt that your journey is just a snowball and it's going to continue to grow. And I hope whether it's back in Australia or here in Dubai, we're able to connect. But for anyone
We
listening who
will.
wants to follow along your journey, your story, where's the best place they can do? Where are you most active? And I'll pop some links in the show notes.
Instagram. I sort of don't sleep. I'm
IG.
always there, always on Instagram. So follow me at
Okay.
Mariam.Elhouli.
Amazing. Well, I'll put a link below, but thank you again for your time. I appreciate it.